So, Ali, we have participants can join at any point. Yes, there's nothing blocking them. Okay, great. Then I'll start for the sake of time. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to the NAIGC election Q&A. Here we are going to present to you all of our candidates running for regional rep spots or board member positions. This is a time for them to talk a little bit about why they're running for the board or why they're running as a regional representative, and an opportunity for you to ask them questions. Go ahead, Ali. Or sorry, Andrew. You can go one more. So just as a quick welcome, just every candidate is going to get 2 minutes for a speech. They're going to give their little speech for 2 minutes talking about why they are running, why they think they are a good candidate. And then we're going to allow 1 minute following for each candidate for you guys to ask questions. We ask that you guys use the Q&A feature within Zoom, not the chat. If not, they may get buried. So make sure you're asking your questions via the Q&A. At the very end, we'll have additional time for questions. We also have some opportunities for questions to be submitted via Google Doc. I think actually we don't have any submitted via Google Doc, but any become submitted, that's where we'll also address the Google Doc. This presentation will also be recorded, so if anybody was unable to attend, it is accessible to you. We will put it up and attach it to the website, and it will also be on our YouTube channel. Go ahead, Andrew. Just as a quick timeline reminder, each club receives 1 ballot. The ballots are going to be sent out to all of the clubs at the end of the Q&A. It should be sent to the email address your regional representative has on file. The election will close on the 13th, so May 13th at 11:59 Eastern time. And then the new board and regional representatives will be seated July 1st. Just so everybody knows, if you have any issues with your ballot or any further questions, you can contact election@naigc.org for more questions or for any assistance. Go ahead. All right, so here is the rest of our agenda. I'm going to pass this on to Missy Preston, the nomination committee chair, and she's going to talk a little bit about the nomination committee endorsements and what they did.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. My name's Missy. I helped to lead our nomination committee in its inaugural year this year. And so I just wanted to stop by and give you guys a little overview about the nomination committee, the theory behind it, how it went, so that everyone can be on the same page. So the nomination committee really, I think, surfaced back when we were doing something called the restructuring process with our board and our organization. And that was to help, our organization in its growth and development to be able to sustain the rapid growth that we have, which is great. But we have so much interest and so much willingness to help with the organization that we had to kind of split things. And then the idea of having a nomination committee to help sift through the board election came to life. And I'm really happy that we were able to execute it this year. So really the goal of the nomination committee is for a smaller group to really do a deep dive through all of the data of the board applicants and really thoroughly evaluate them and be able to recommend based on overall board composition. So we took a look at the overall board members that we had this year, the strengths and the gaps that we had, the people that were staying on board and the people that were not going to run again, and then took into consideration everyone that was running and tried to identify who would best fill any gaps that we had. I think that it's important to also say that we weren't removing anyone from the ballot, so everyone is still eligible to run, and the membership is ultimately responsible to elect our new board. A couple other points I guess I had on this slide were just that we use a lot of the frameworks that were developed by the development committee on our board, and they were really great in developing a lot of frameworks that we were able to evaluate everyone fairly. And we also came up with some suggestions along the way to be able to improve it next year, and we welcome member feedback as well. You can go to the next slide, please. This is just a general overview of the timeline. It essentially ran from early March until about now, this past week. And so it was a little bit rapid fire, but thankfully we didn't have too many applications. So we were able to sift through it all pretty effectively and come up with our top 9 recommended candidates. Next slide, please. So overall, we felt that the committee was a success. We hope that it helps our membership be able to decipher between all of the candidates, because it can be a little bit overwhelming to see so much of the information and determine who really is a good fit to elect. So we had our group of 9 that we recommended, and you'll see they're broken up into tiers based on who was like most strongly recommended for leadership positions, and kind of trickles down from there. And I just wanted to give a shout out on this slide to all the committee members. We had a group of 8 of us, I believe, and we also very much welcome any member feedback. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys in the election process, and we hope to continue to use it years going forward. I don't know if anyone would have questions, but I'm happy to take any questions right now if anyone does. I'm not hearing any questions, so I think we can move on to the next slide. But thank you, everyone, and enjoy the election. Good
Thank
luck
you,
to the
Missy.
candidates.
Thank you, Missy, for that. All right, everyone. My name is Mason. I am the current secretary for the NAIGC. I will be moderating the regional rep candidate speeches and the NAIGC board candidate speeches. Moving on, go ahead, Andrew. We'll kick things off with the regional representative speeches. Reminder, candidates, you're each given 2 minutes to give your speech, followed by a 1-minute Q&A. We'll go in this order that's presented on the screen. I will start your time when you begin speaking. Rachel Pfeiffer from the Southeast, your time will begin whenever you are ready.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Pfeiffer. I am currently the Southeast Regional Representative and will like to rerun for next year. Basically, I've been a gymnast in my entire life and I've always loved everything about the sport. I went to the University of Florida for my undergrad, where I was part of their club gymnastics team there, and I served as the secretary and later the president. As their president, I was really involved with communicating with our practice gyms and our club directors at UF. I helped plan our home meets, set up volunteering and fundraising events. And then now this past year, I have been working as the Southeast Regional Representative here at the NAIGC, and also working as a medical scribe in my free time in my track to PA school. This coming year, I'll be going to physician assistant school, and I really hope to stay involved within the NAIGC and just continue to be active in the gymnastics community and help in any ways I can. This year, being a Southeast Regional Rep, I was able to implement things like Club of the Week, where I tried to get our clubs involved and just get them to see what other clubs were doing during this time, and keep up with surveys for membership to see what their clubs have been up to with everything going on. I really believe this experience this year working as a regional rep will really prepare me to do even better next year and have more experience for that. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to it.
Super. Thank you, Rachel. Are there any questions for Rachel?
I see no questions in the chat.
All right, we can move on. If any questions for Rachel pop up, we will address them at the end. Same with all the remainder of the candidates. All right, Kate, time is ready when you are. It does not look like Kate is here. Would somebody like to speak on Kate's behalf?
I could do it if there's anybody else that feels they would rather. I could pass the torch.
Okay, your time starts when you are ready.
I've worked with Kate for the last 4 years now. She is a leader of the Cal Gymnastics Club. She is one of the main council members that runs that organization. She's always been very involved, wonderfully on top of communications with different organizations, with different facets within the university, as well as between other clubs. She was the regional representative last year, and as a previous member of the West Coast, I got a chance to see some of the work she did and some of the communication that she exceeded with. I think she's a great candidate, and I think she would be great to continue in this position next year.
All right, thank you, Julie. Are there any questions for Kate, but through Julie?
No questions in the chat.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to South Central. Andrew, time will begin whenever you are ready.
Oh, okay, I'm not muted. Okay. Hi, I'm Andrew. I was the regional representative this past year. I've been regional representative or regional coordinator in the past. Most people from my region know me. I'm also on the TGC board, so I've been helping out for years. I mean, there's really not much to say because I think everybody knows me, but if anybody doesn't, I started volunteering with the NEIGC and the TGC back in 2012. I go to all the meets. I'm usually the person scoring the meets, entering the scores, tabulating everything. I like to stay involved. I'm still working out. So yeah, that's about all I have.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Are there any questions for Andrew?
No questions in the chat.
All right, thank you, Sydney. Moving on to Northeast, we have Hannah. Hannah, time will begin whenever you are ready.
All right. Hello, my name's Hannah DeRoche, and I'm running for the Northeast Regional Rep. I've grown up in the Northeast and have formed great bonds with the gymnastics community in the area. This past year was very hard for our region with COVID. However, I'm excited to see what we can do in the coming year. I know that the region will band together to be stronger than ever. And if given the opportunity to serve as the representative for the Northeast, I'd bring my network of connections with USAG clubs and judges in the area, as well as my expertise in building a new club up, like I did with Brandeis, which is my alma mater, to help the region be more organized, more connected to both other teams and the broader gymnastics community, and more supportive in assisting new clubs who are just starting to grow. Over the past few years, I've had the pleasure of attending competitions all over the Northeast, and I plan to continue to do so in the coming years, such that I'm both readily available via email and a constant face at competitions to assist in ensuring that competitions or other events run smoothly. And it would be my pleasure to serve the Northeast.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Do we have any questions for Hannah?
No questions in the chat.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Mid-Atlantic, we have Hannah. Hannah, feel free to go whenever you are ready.
Yep, same name, different pronunciation. Hi, Hannah. Anyways, so basically, I did club gym all through my undergrad at Rutgers. I served as treasurer my junior and senior years. My senior year, I picked up a lot more responsibility and really got to know about running a club. Tammy told me there was no one running for Mid-Atlantic and they were trying to find someone. So I said, I feel like it's kind of my duty to step up. NAIGC has done so much for me. Like, yeah, there's probably someone better at the role, but if no one else is going to run, I'll do it. Maybe they can start a writing campaign now. But yeah, and next year I'm going to be going to grad school actually at Carnegie Mellon, but I heard that Pitt, because they have a consortium, I'll be able to do club gym there. And I'm like, all right, I was at one Mid-Atlantic school. Now I'm going to another Mid-Atlantic school, possibly for 6 more years. And I won't be on e-board there because it'll be my first year. So I feel like it's good for me to give back and, help out the gymnastics community in some way I can. I mean, look, I'm new to this. I've never been on an NAIGC thing before, but I'm very obsessive about checking my email. I'm very detail oriented. I like being in the know and like knowing everything and like explaining it to people very clearly. If you talk to people from my club, there's a lot of emails that are like all in bold, right? Like super, super organized. So, and I think it was Jenna from UDEL who was before me. So I was like, all right, I'll try to fill her shoes. She was great. But all right, that's about all I have to say, unless someone has a question.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Do we have any questions for Hannah?
No questions in the chat, Mason.
All right, thank you. And our final regional representative that we have here is our Mid-East. Josh, if you are here, time begins whenever you are ready. It does not look like Josh is here. Does anybody know Josh or feel comfortable to speak on Josh's behalf? Oh, where did the slide deck go? Bear with us one moment, please. Thank you. There we go.
I sort of know Josh. I don't know him very well. Sorry, my cat's going off. I don't know him very well, but I do know that he goes to Wright State University and that he's pretty active in the Mid-East region. I know he goes to a lot of competitions and he's always been a great guy. I think he works pretty hard. But other than that, I can't really say that much about him. I don't know him that well, but he was always around all the meets whenever I went there and always seemed very engaged.
All right, thank you, Allie, for speaking on behalf of Josh. I don't believe we have any questions on the document ahead of time for Josh. So the final regional representative spot is still open. The Midwest, so if your club is in the Midwest, we will be leaving a section open for write-ins to gather any potential candidates of interest, things like that, and doing a runoff election for that region specifically. Applications can be seen in their entirety on our website, naigc.org/candidate, and just click on their name and it should drop down. So moving on from our regional reps, we have our board candidates. Go ahead, Andrew. All right, starting off, these are general candidates. These candidates were not endorsed by the nomination committee, but are still eligible to be elected by the board and will appear on the election ballot. Full applications for all candidates are found on that same naigc.org/candidates page. The first of the candidates that we have to present today is Ayan. Ayan, if you are here, your time will begin when you are ready, but it does not look like Ayan is here. No. Okay. Does anybody know Ayan or feel comfortable to speak on Ayan's behalf? All right. Moving on, we have Madison. Madison, if you are here, please feel free to begin speaking when you are ready. I do not see Madison in the participants. Does anybody know Madison or feel comfortable speaking on Madison's behalf? Okay, were there any questions indicated for either Ayan or Madison that we could share with them?
There are no questions in the chat, Mason, and there's no questions on our form.
Super, thank you. All right, we can move on to the tier 1 endorsed candidate or tier 3 candidates. So these candidates were suited for general board positions specifically because of their nonprofit experience, board skills or board experience, and strong work ethic. So starting off, we have Hannah. Hannah, take it away.
All right, thank you and hello again. So this past year, I served on the board of directors, acting as an integral part of both the finance and development committees. With my unique perspective as the only board member representing the Northeast this past year, I would love to continue to offer this point of view for the region on the governance board. I'd love to serve on the board of directors again in the coming fiscal year, helping the different committees develop and ensure that the NAIGC continues to grow and offer the membership an environment that exemplifies our motto of for the love of the sport. In addition to the experience I've gained as a board member this past year, during my time at Brandeis University pursuing my master's in international economics and finance, I took numerous courses about finance and accounting, and I've used this knowledge to help the finance committee and all 3 subcommittees. I spearheaded the creation of a new reporting platform to assist all departments, both ops and governance, budget for the year and ensure their spending is on track. In the next fiscal year, if elected to the board, I will ensure this new platform is successfully implemented and utilized to ensure the NAIGC remains on track financially. I've also helped in reorganizing our accounting procedures, helping to keep our books organized. In regards to the development committee, one of my major goals, if elected to the board again, is to help this committee continue to grow and adopt more nonprofit best practices. I served as a non-voting board member of a local nonprofit during my time at Brandeis, where the entire class acted as board members of various organizations. And in this way, I gained valuable experience in nonprofit best practices, as well as formed a network of connections that are experts in the field. And finally, overall, I feel as though I've made a large impact to the board of directors, and I would love to continue implementing new initiatives as we continue to understand and take advantage of the new structure that we've created with the separation of governance and operations. While this separation is important, it's more important that we serve as a united front. And I've been happy to serve as a liaison between governance and the WAG committee this past year. I would love to continue to help the board grow and develop on the board of directors for the coming fiscal year. So thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Do we have any questions for Hannah? Does not look like we have any in the chat or on the form. All right. Tessa was not able to come tonight due to a personal emergency. However, I believe we have somebody here who can speak on Tessa's behalf.
I can, unless somebody else wants to. I can happily pass the floor to somebody else. Mason, do you feel like you want to, or do you want me to?
Oh, you totally can. Yeah, you'd be a much better representative than
Okay.
I.
So Tessa joined the NAIGC this year. She has been brought on as the head of our COVID-19 task force. So she does have some NAIGC experience now. She's been crucial at this time for us in a moment of uncertainty for the organization and for public health. She has a background in immunology and has been able to bring in essential viewpoints for us in the organization. She's done a fantastic job at being thorough with recommendations, guiding the board to make good decisions, and being able to run a task force and its own section. I also want to comment that I believe she has nonprofit experience in USAG or USA Vaulting. I don't know what the organization is called officially, but she does have nonprofit experience, nonprofit management experience, and it definitely showed this year with the work she did with this COVID-19 task force. I think Tessa's a great candidate, and she has shown us that she is capable of good communication and very thorough and high quality work.
All right, thank you, Julie, for speaking on Tessa's behalf. If any questions do arise for Tessa, we will be sure to, and all the candidates as well, if any questions do come up, we will be sure to share them with the candidates so they can respond. Next up, we have Ren. Ren, take it away whenever you are ready.
Hello, I'm Brent Exley, pronouns he, him. I've been serving as an operations specialist with the NAIGC for about 2 years now, and I'm currently serving as the PR coordinator. So I'm in charge of most of the social media stuff that you see. I also serve on the WAG Rules team, scholarships team, nationals team, and merch. So I discovered NAIGC through club gymnastics at UCLA. And ever since, I've been really passionate about the organization because I love how whenever you go to meets, everyone's super fun and supportive. And it's just something that I haven't really seen anywhere else in the sport of gymnastics. So that's what really got me passionate about it. So my biggest priority as a board member would be to create as many opportunities as possible for members and to kind of facilitate, foster that environment that's super positive, and particularly to create opportunities for people who are underrepresented in the sport of gymnastics. I've also worked as a head gymnastics coach at UCLA. So I've been in charge of managing kids as well as assistant coaches. So I think that's kind of helped me to hone my leadership and communication skills. And also from being in charge of social media, I've had to do a lot of communication between NAIGC and the membership. So I think that's given me a lot of good experience, as well as just serving on a lot of different teams. I feel like I've gotten a good understanding of how the organization functions and what the different types of responsibilities are. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ren. All right, moving on from our tier 3 speeches, we have our tier 2 candidates. Tier 2 candidates were suited for committee chair positions based on policy or development experience, other leadership experience or nonprofit experiences, general board skills that they might have been identified to have, as well as a strong work ethic and at least 1 year serving on the NAIGC board of directors. Starting off, we have Alice, or goes by Allie Snyder. Allie, take it away whenever you are ready.
Hi, thanks, Mason. So I have been a part of the NAIGC since I started college. I did some gymnastics when I was younger, but I pretty much came into the NAIGC as a beginner and absolutely fell in love with it. And I became the leader of my team in undergrad and joined the leadership of the NEIGC in 2017 as a regional coordinator for the West Coast. And from there, I helped in any capacity that I could. I was advisor, I was a board member, and then advisor again. And last year, I was a board member. So I was helping the NEIGC navigate this new split between governance and operations. I also sit on operations. I'm the communications team lead. So I'm always the one who's on the Instagram live office hours. So you guys probably see my face a lot. But my biggest push is that I want to make sure there's open and honest communication and transparency between the board and operations and the membership, and try to open up as many avenues as possible so you guys understand what's going on and what's the reasoning behind decisions and get feedback from you guys. I served on policy and development this past year, and I'm really excited, and hopefully I can be the development chair next year. Development was in its first year this past year, so we really laid the groundwork, and I'm excited to see where I can take it from there if I do get elected as the dev chair. I'm really passionate about gymnastics since I've discovered it again as an adult, and I just love to continue pushing boundaries of the sport. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Allie. Are there any questions for Allie? Do not believe there are. All right. Moving on, we have Andrew. Andrew, your time begins when you feel ready.
Hello, I'm Andrew. I've been with the board for a while. I started as an advisor in the 2012 to 13 school year. I've done a little bit of everything, so I have a very solid knowledge, very solid understanding of how the board is structured and how the organization operates. My big thing that I'm passionate about is our policy, in particular, making sure that we have avenues for y'all to give feedback on policies that most directly affect you, like competition policies and eligibility policies, things like that. I was the development committee chair this past year. I'm helping out with our tech committee, trying to get a new registration system developed. Yeah, I would call myself a jack of all trades when it comes to NEIGC. I know a lot of club coaches, high school coaches, judges. I have a lot of connections. And so I went to the University of Texas. I was on the club team there, and I had a really good time. And so I have been volunteering since then just to give back and try and give people the same great experience that I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Do we have any questions for Andrew? I do not see any questions on the form or in the chat. We can move on to the next slide, which is additionally more tier 2 candidates. Same tier ranking based on experience, work ethic, board skills, and NEIGC governance board experience. Next up, we have Ashley. Ashley, your time begins whenever you are ready.
I am Ashley. I am from North Carolina, alum of UNC. I was on the board way back when, from 2007 to 2010 as an undergrad. Came back to the board in 2017 as an advisor, was a director from 2018 to 2020, and also served as chair of the policy committee. I have been a policy advisor this past year. I continue to work out with clubs in the area, so High Point and Wake Forest University this year, hopefully UNC again once some COVID restrictions get lifted. And I just have great passion for this organization, like everyone does, and look forward to the opportunity to continue to serve and help us grow even more.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Do we have any questions in the chat for Ashley? There are not any on the form as it stands, so.
No questions in the chat.
All right, thank you. All right, next up we have Sean. Sean, your time begins when you are ready.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Chilali. I've been volunteering for the NAIGC the past 5 years or so, starting out as an advisor. This past year was the first year that I was actually a board member. And it was a really enjoyable and rewarding experience. And I'm looking to continue giving back to the organization by staying on as a board member again. I served on all 3 committees last year, and I'm planning on doing that again. Kind of like Andrew said, I kind of see myself as a jack of all trades and kind of be involved in everything. Yeah, that's all.
All right, thank you, Sean. It does not look like we have any questions in the chat nor on the form. All right, we can move on to the next slide. So these are our board member candidates who were given a tier 1 endorsement. Tier 1 candidates were suited for president based on leadership experience and nonprofit experience, board skills, strategic planning skills, strong work ethic, policy experience, and at least 3 years of NAIGC board experience. The first of our candidates here is Julie. Julie, your time begins when you are ready.
Okay, I'll try my best to summarize. I got a lot to say. So if you guys have any questions, because it's quick, you can always email me at julie.rolla@naigc.org. So I did my undergrad at Cal, where I was part of the Cal Gymnastics Club. I am now a graduate student at The Ohio State University. This will be my 7th year on the board. I have served as com-chair for multiple years, back when we had a communications committee, and then secretary of the NAIGC. So in the past, a lot of my drive was to push to improve membership involvement in communication. This year, I've picked up some new initiatives as president. So as president this last year, first, something I've started and I want to continue doing is encouraging joint organization communication within other gymnastics orgs. So myself and Tim Michaels have worked in a task force set up by USAG. I've been heading this task force to essentially drive better participation in MAG and help MAG increase instead of decline like it has been doing in terms of participation. Second thing is I've pushed us to stay ahead of the needs of underrepresented groups in gymnastics. So a couple things, I spearheaded the the creation of the BIPOC task force. A lot of efforts helped with Ali Snyder. Additionally, we've worked on an underrepresented student scholarship. Other things like improved inclusivity and diversity in our hiring staff. So our nomination committee was nice and diverse, as well as seeking out diverse applicants and making that part of our rubric for people that were endorsed for the NAIGC board. So other things, I'd like to do some things in the future with this too, maybe start something like an LGBTQ task force that assesses the needs of this group and how we can stay ahead of that curve. And finally, I led the NAIGC through the strategic planning this year, which we redid because of this restructure. And one of the goals was to help the organization set some sort of goals and benchmarks that helped us guide further towards creating better support for diversity within the NAIGC. Last thing I want to do next year is hopefully spearhead some efforts in succession with NAIGC leadership. So being able to make sure that future leaders of the NAIGC are prepared to take on these positions that we will depart from at some point. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, you can email me.
All right. Do we have any questions in the chat for Julie? Does not look like it. And just a reminder, anyone, if questions do come in for a candidate, we will ask them to the candidate following the entirety of it. So don't worry there. All right. It looks like we are good with that. All right, moving on to Tim. Tim, your time begins whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Mason. Hey, everybody. My name is Tim. I have been with the NAIGC for around 10 years now. I was president for Julie from 2016 to 2020. And I had a hand in most of the major things we did during that time. In particular, I spearheaded the restructure that we've been working through. Outside of that, I'm pretty well connected in the men's community in particular. I coach and judge extensively. I'm currently the head Pumhorse judge for juniors in the country. And in my day job, I'm manager at a Fortune 500 company, which I think helps me with kind of leadership experience. In terms of my priorities for next year, I think that I have 2 priorities. So the first one is that I think really as an organization, we need to figure out how to intervene with the clubs as they are and bring them to recovery as quickly as possible. I don't think we have a great sense of how clubs are struggling and where we can help. And then my second priority will be continuing just to help transition into this new structure. I've been a mentor for a lot of the new leaders this year. I would like to keep doing that and help Julie with succession planning so we can be set up for success. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Do we have any questions in the Q&A or on the form for Tim? The form looks clear. Give people a second if they want to populate the Q&A. But with that being said, we have gone through all of the candidates and their speeches. So now it's this open-ended time for Q&As. So there is one current question that has been asked. Sydney has tagged that she will present the question if she would like. I'm more than happy to do it as well.
Yeah, so we received a question for Sean in the chat. Sean, can you describe your expertise in finance?
Sure, thanks for asking. So I started off I was treasurer at the UC Berkeley Club for 2 years. And then I was treasurer at the Ohio State Gymnastics Club during my graduate degree for another 2 years. So both those clubs have pretty large budgets of, more than $20,000 that I work with and managed. In my professional life, I'm an analyst for a marketing division of my company. So we deal with money a lot in that role as well, although not directly related to nonprofit finance, of course. So yeah.
Thank you, Sean. We have no further questions from the Q&A feature we have one question. Tim mentioned a supervisor role at work. Do other candidates have experience managing others? Maybe we can just go round robin, or if anybody would like to specifically speak to their professional experience managing others.
So I could jump in if nobody minds me starting. So I'm finishing my PhD at Ohio State, and I actually am a grant writer for some of my science grants. And I did receive a grant as the main, essentially the head of this grant and this project. So I manage right now we have about 14 undergraduates that work in my group. Over time, we've had about 35 that have worked within this group in the last few years, managing and helping them grow as leaders. So a lot of the times we will give them, we'll divide the research group up into different projects. We'll guide and teach them how to lead these projects and how to spearhead these as essentially the management. So I've had a ton of experience with this at work. And as a postdoc going into postdoc position, I hope to do the same. Additionally, I worked for about 1.5 years at UC Berkeley as a lecturer for the mathematics department. So I lectured classrooms of about 50 students at any given time. So I got to work and lead that group into mathematical education.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Next up, Hannah has suggested that she would go.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to speak a little bit to this. During my time as an undergrad, I served as a TA for various classes where specifically for financial accounting, there were about 6 of us all working with a professor. So I kind of took the role as the main TA, delegating who was going to do what what recitation session, who was going to correct the exams, etc. I also have worked a little bit with interns at my job, making sure that they're getting everything they can out of the experience. I work for a marketing agency as a digital marketing analyst. So we have a few interns that we are kind of teaching the ropes using different Google products like Google Analytics. So overall, I've served kind of as the head TA for financial accounting specifically, and also as a kind of leader with some interns at my work.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Next up, Sean has volunteered to go.
So I was actually promoted to a manager position this week. So I'm getting manager experience now. Although I've kind of been serving in that capacity already for the past 4 or 5 months, hiring and managing 5 other analysts on my team.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean, and congratulations on your promotion. Does anybody else feel the need to speak up regarding managerial experience?
I've also served in a managerial role in my professional life. I've managed a team of up to 5 direct reports. They reported to me, managed goals, metrics, all the fun things that go along with that, as well as managing a few different committees within the NAIGC.
Super. Thank you, Ashley. Do any of the, oh, I see Ren has his hand raised. Ren, feel free to go.
Yeah, so I kind of already touched on it, but like I was serving as a head coach for like a year and a half at BGA, which is like the kids program at UCLA for gymnastics. And like there was like basically this overturn in leadership where like my boss like left, and then like they brought in new management, but like the management didn't know like what the rules were. So like essentially I was kind of like working as like the manager and the coach at the same time. So like I feel like that kind of gave me a lot of experience with like mentoring like new coaches and taking on leadership and, you know, like juggling multiple things at once. So
All right. Thank you, Ren. I also see Allie has her hand raised. Allie, take it away.
Hi. Yes, I have a couple avenues where I've been managing people or had people I was responsible for. So outside of the NEIGC, I work at the Ohio State University, and I work inside a lab, and I manage undergrads, and it's more like coordinating who can come in at what points and what projects they're working on. Also in my undergrad, I trained to be a middle school and high school teacher. So I did a lot of in-classroom experience, a lot of time management skills, working with young children. But specifically towards the NEIGC, I've been the communications team lead for about 3 years now. And I think the team runs pretty efficiently. And I've also been helping the BIPOC task force out as a kind of pseudo team leader for that, because it's a new task
Super.
force.
Thank you, Allie. Does anyone else feel the need to speak up on this question, or do we have any additional questions that would like to be asked?
Sure. So in my professional career, I haven't done a lot of management, but within the gymnastics community, I was the president of my club for a few years, and within the NEIGC, I've been the secretary. I've managed I've been the chair of the development committee, fundraising, communications, technology, all those committees. I'm currently the team lead for our software development team. And in my region, I served as the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer of the Texas Gymnastics Conference. So I have a lot of in gymnastics industry experience.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Andrew. Do we have any additional questions? I believe every candidate that is here has spoken on that question. Yes. We'll give it a few more minutes for anyone to populate the Q&A with any questions they may have. But additionally, at any point, feel free to send feedback or questions to candidates or just to the board itself to elections@naigc.org if they are revolving around the election or around candidate questions, and we will make sure that the candidate gets them and can answer those questions as soon as possible.
If you guys do have any questions moving forward about anything also elections related, the ballots open up in just a few minutes. And tomorrow I'm going to be hosting a live Instagram office hour specifically for the election. So I'll go over voting and ballots and answer any questions that you guys have within the first 24 hours. So you guys can check over at NEIGC Gymnastics for any questions there.
We do have a few questions that were populated in the form that we can
Sure.
ask all of the candidates if we're ready to move on to that.
Just real quick, I forgot to say the time. I always do this. It's at the office hours at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It starts on Instagram Live.
All right. Thank you, Allie. All right, Sydney, we can begin with the next question portion of the Q&A.
So a question we received in our election form is, assuming membership grows to the point where cities/convention centers cannot host nationals as large as the NEIGC needs, what would you do? So this question was directed towards all of our candidates, I believe, and I'll put it in the chat so that everyone can see it.
So if you want, I can start. So this has actually been a question that we've approached quite a few times in the last 10 years with the NEIGC. I think that, based on our trajectory of growth, this is potentially a possibility. I think we've talked a lot about solutions, and there are some that I think can be explored before anything like more extreme has to happen. For example, we are picking out one hall of the convention center. If we grow and we have the financial stability to do so, we can also talk about pulling up other halls. It would separate some of our events possibly into different halls, but there are potential opportunities. Other things we've discussed would be something like finding major cities with bigger capacity capabilities, and then possibly potentially rotating among less cities. There has been like this third option, which in my opinion, I think is probably less exciting, which would be having regionals be a qualifier for nationals. I think before we would get there, though, there are a lot of steps we can take. Even we could talk about expanding the amount of days we offer nationals, right? Maybe we could shift the time so that it's more capable for students to take the time off. But I think primarily this would have to be a larger discussion before the organization did anything, based on what does the membership want to see and how can we still cater to their needs based on our growth.
All right, Julie, thank you for that. Just a heads up, we're going to try to limit these responses to 45 to 60 seconds, just because we have 2 other questions additionally. So we'll keep that in mind going forward. All right. I didn't preface that with everything, so my apologies for that. Tim, I see your hand is raised.
Sure. I didn't have a ton to add actually for Julie, but I would say the expectations, like we are not really anywhere close to maxing out convention centers. We get like 100,000 square feet. We could double, triple that without going to extra days. So I've never heard anybody in the NEIGC seriously consider making regionals qualifying. Like we would have to have like 3,000, 5,000 people in nationals. I'm not really sure. So I just wanted to like give that perspective. But with that being said, like it's been a priority for a while to make regionals better and like more like mini nationals, so people have another great event to go to, which I think we should still prioritize.
Super. Thank you, Tim. Does anyone else have anything to add to that? All right, Andrew is raising his hand. All right, Andrew, feel free to go.
Yeah, so I agree with what Tim said. We're not even close to that, but just for some context, I think, if we do make that type of decision, I think we'll have heads up of at least a few years to really let our membership know about it. But for those of you who are unaware, the NEIGC is very unique in terms of the density of space we use for the people that we have. So as it stands, there's a lot of convention centers that won't even talk to us because we don't bring enough people. And so as we grow as an organization, that actually opens up some more cities to us potentially to host at.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Anybody else feel free to speak on this topic? All right, it looks like we are good. Sydney, you may present the next question.
So the next question is, last year, the board went through a restructuring effort, and this is its first year of implementation. Do you feel it's been successful? What, if anything, would you improve? And I'll put that in the chat.
I see Hannah is ready to answer this question. Hannah, feel free to take it away.
Great, thanks, Mason. So I think overall that the restructuring was successful. Of course, with any big change to an organization like that, there will be some bumps in the road. And one thing I think was maybe not necessarily unsuccessful, but probably the least successful was the implementation of the development committee. I think it was really important that we used this year to get our feet wet, but I think going forward, this is one committee that we as a governance board can really grow and develop. Development committee. But I think overall, ensuring that we really take advantage of this committee, meet more consistently, and get more feedback from the organization as a whole as to what would be most helpful here, and looking more into just nonprofits in general, I think is the most important.
All right.
Thank
you, Hannah. Ren?
So what I've heard from a lot of people is just like difficulties in like communication and, you know, particularly between like the board and operations. So I think if we could do something to try to improve that, that would be really positive. I don't know if that involves like having more events where we kind of like get to know each other and like, you know, what we're responsible for. And just socialize a little bit, or like how that can be improved, but that's something I've observed.
All right, thank you, Ren. Allie, you are next.
So plus oneing to all of whatever's been said so far. I wanted to push a little further on, you know, there's been some bumps in the road. I think something that was difficult this past year was we were kind of building our house while living in it too. So like Hannah said, development committee, it's its first year of ever being initiated. So I think just like things we can improve on is solidifying exactly what the roles are, what our tasks are for the year, and kind of putting in a timeline forward for next year.
All right, thank you, Allie. Ashley, you are next.
I would just say, obviously, it's been a year of transition and there's always going to be challenges. I think that one of the things that we can do better as an organization is just leadership training. We need people who are qualified to lead and to plan for that for future years as well as current years. And I think we can all improve in that area.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Julie, you are next.
So I think there's still this next year, and this is what I've mentioned to potential board candidates. I think this year will look a little bit different than it may look like in 5 years. I think there are still some places where things need to be developed from scratch. So for example, this year we put a lot of work and time into developing policies and implementing how the NomCom will work this year. I think there are still a lot of places we need to do this. There are a lot of elements of how the org runs that have not yet been determined based on this. That's going to be our biggest chore next year. Other thing is like making sure that over time we can decide what are the best protocols for some of these gray areas, what power operations has to make motions to do things without it having to run through the board, and how to make sure that we keep an eye on what's happening, but minimize the bureaucracy for all of the other leaders working in operations. So with this gray area, we have to improve the gray area and figure out how to develop some of these last stable policies and implement them for the future year. So now we have a baseline standard. But I do think it was wildly successful. So congrats to everybody who implemented this. I think it's been great.
All right, thank you, Julie. All the other candidates have said they are good on this question. Everything that has been said they've agreed with, and it's been covered. So feel free to bring on the next question, Sydney.
So the last question that we received on our form is, do you view other gymnastics organizations such as GymAct as competition or collaborators, and why? I see Tim has his hand raised.
Yeah,
Kick us off, Tim?
Yes, so I definitely have strong thoughts on this. So my first thought is that I think this is something the board should be focused on, and like this is something everybody should care about. Secondly, I think that we're at a very unique time in the gymnastics community where we have an opportunity to collaborate. So as Julie has mentioned, USAG has brought me and Julie in, and a few others on the MAG Rules Committee to like really help collaborate. And so we're like meeting with with representatives from GMAC and with representatives from NCAA and with representatives from USAG to like come up with a whole cohesive strategy for men's collegiate and adult gymnastics. And so like, we should not view them as competitors. We should in fact be collaborating, strategizing together. And I think we're actually at a really great time to be doing that. Cool.
Super. Thank you, Tim. Julie. feel
Yep,
free
so
to
Tim
speak.
said it identically. I think the most important thing for us is not our org versus theirs. We have to remember that our goals as, as gymnastics enthusiasts are to cover all of our bases. So no athlete left unturned, making sure there is a home for anybody of any level, background, demographic, need, etc. Now, most importantly too, with this is like remembering that we all connect to each other, right? You could imagine, anything with USAG, if we don't work better at partnering with other organizations, USAG drives athletes directly into us or GymAct or NCAA. Without that cohesiveness, essentially all ability for us to keep longevity in the sport is lost. So I think we all serve different purposes. And if we work together, it means that we can make sure all of our bases are covered, no athlete left unturned. Everybody has a home. I do agree also, it should be a main focus, and I think it has been, so.
Thank you, Julie. Do any other candidates have anything new to add? It looks like everyone that has messaged me says they are good and agree with everything that has been said. Have any other questions populated the document in the meantime, Sydney? The Q&A is clear and good.
No other no other questions in the form.
Thank you so much. All right. Additionally, before we sign off again, reminder, any feedback, any questions, comments, concerns, send them to elections@naigc.org if they're election related. Reminder that all candidate profiles and applications and non-com endorsements can be found on our website, naigc.org/candidates. That's been linked on here a few times. Additionally, it's been sent out in emails. Now, in very shortly, you should all have your application, my apologies, your election ballots in your emails. That's being sent out now. So happy election. Again, any questions, any issues with elections that arise during the meantime, reach out to elections@naigc.org. We will make sure that we can get anything handled for you, whether it's an email, a password, a ballot, it's all funky. We got you covered. Don't worry about that. All right. And thank you, Tim. All right. With that being said, we are good. Thank you all for attending, or thank you all for watching retroactively. We really appreciate it. And we will see you all soon.